Hi, this is Philip Bynoe, and you are watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Leafman here. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com, where I've taken the frustration out of learning bass so you could build confidence, have fun, and just enjoy making music, especially if you've got sore muscles, achy joints, and getting older. We've got a special guest this week. I've been excited and looking forward to getting together again. Philip Bynoe. We did an interview about 7 years ago, I think we decided. Philip Bynoe is a multiple Grammy nominee, best known for his long association with Steve Vai. He's also played with Kevin Eubanks, Slash, Tony McAlpine, and so many others. He's also an Emmy Award winner for his work on the film Reefer Madness. Hello, Philip. It's so good to see you again.
John, good to be in your presence.
In the last interview we did, we got the whole story about your Boston upbringing, and it was so cool talking about your mom playing the cello and your dad playing the bass. So bring us up to date. What has been keeping you busy these days?
Well, as you can see by my fabulous room behind me, I've been, during COVID, I did a lot of online teaching, not as much as I'd like to, and a lot of session work because artists were home and they were recording music and making music. And I joined a couple of different websites. I joined Session Musicians, which is a kind of referral service for songwriters to be able to get musicians. So as you said, I've been playing with Steve for a number of years, and so people who are in that field are going to know me as opposed to someone that's not in the guitar.
Did I see somewhere you were working on some children's projects or kids' records?
Yeah, I'm about, I think we're on our 6th record. I've been working with a woman named Deb Snyder. She's an actress in California, and we've known each other since the early 90s. We were in a theater program in Massachusetts, and we were doing children's theater and for kids at risk. We would write songs for the kids to sing and all that stuff, and we continued that relationship after she left the program and I left the program. And she moved to California. I was already there, and we started writing songs under the name PB and Deb. And we've got 5 or 6. We're releasing our 6th. Nobody releases records anymore. We're releasing our 6th compilation of songs any day now. So
when you say kids at risk, what kind of risk? What are you referring to?
Inner city kids. Because in Boston, there was, just like in every major city, there's the whole gang problem, and then the problem with a boy or a girl who loses a parent and only has one parent, and that parent has to work, so the kid's home by himself and is looking for a group to belong to. So rather than becoming involved in a gang or drug violence or whatever, we would do this theater program, and it gave the kids, and it still is working as a matter of fact, gives the kids an option to just being on the street rather than, instead they learn skills for acting, for improv acting, and all kinds of things about music. That was my part of the program, was in the music department, and it was a real, especially it also was at the elementary school level, so it gave young kids something so that when they got to junior high and middle and high school, they'd have some other extracurricular thing as opposed to just, well, after school I'll just go and hang out with whoever. They'd join the theater programs, they'd join the music programs, they'd join, really kind of give them some self-esteem to also have options for critical situations.
That's beautiful. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Tell me about Steve Vai. Weren't you just out with him within the last couple of months?
Yes, we did. We did 7 weeks in Europe, beginning at the end of May and going into about the first week of July. I have so many stories about Steve. They all seem to, for me, I hope that, as a musician, I hope that we all get an opportunity to work with somebody, or even, not just somebody, but in an organization where all the people that are involved, you're friends with everybody. And because we did 7 weeks, let me tell you the things that went wrong on that tour. So we, because Steve had a shoulder injury and had surgery before, last year during the pandemic, he had his shoulder and his wrists and all this stuff worked on. Because, we've all been playing since we were kids, and, now you reach 60 and 61, the parts start to, you kind of wear grooves into joints just from staying there doing this all the time. So they moved the tour twice, and every time they moved the tour, they couldn't do things like book a bus, book this, book that, things that you'd want to book a year before. We couldn't do because up until 3 months before we were going to go out on the road, Steve was like, I don't know if I'm able to do it. So we get over to Scotland, and we we're going to start the tour. Had a bus company that shall remain nameless because I'm not going to make them bad because they didn't have the best business practices. But so we had a bus company that was going to give us, that was going to reserve a bus for us. We get out there, we're on the final day of rehearsal. The owner of the bus company calls and says, "I don't have a bus for you." Because everybody had gone out this past summer because of the COVID restrictions had been lifted and all that. So a lot of bands were out. So we didn't have a bus. I said, "We don't have a bus for you. So how are we going to get to the first gig?" So they sent us a passenger bus, which is, you can't sleep on a passenger bus. So we had a passenger bus for the first 2 shows. Then they miraculously got a bus for us. But here's what they didn't tell us. What that company did was they just bought a bus and said, "Hey, we got a new bus. Here it comes." They didn't check it over or any kind of real service on it. They just said, "There's air on the tires and there's beds in it. Get in it." So we get in the bus and we're driving, and it seems to be going well the first week or so of the shows because we're in the north of Europe and Scotland, Ireland, Sweden, London, and it wasn't really hot. So then we, as we crossed over Europe and went down to Italy, we were right in the middle of the triple-digit heat wave they had. Now the bus doesn't have AC, so that's first. Second, the transmission goes. So we're at this one particular place, and the driver backed up to hook the bus to the trailer, and then couldn't get the bus to go forward. So we sat there for 3 hours till the transmission flew down and got the bus to go, and then we took that bus and no AC. We're all sitting in the bus with no shirts on. It looked like the Frankie Goes to Hollywood video. And I mean, and then the other part is that there were 14 of us on the bus. So every bed was full, and even some of them that weren't even supposed to be beds were full. But there were a couple of guys that were kind of had real issues with the heat, but for the most part, we all kind of stayed together and just did what we could. So now remember, there's no AC, so that means the fridge doesn't work. All these things that would normally work on a bus, so we couldn't keep any food. So we get to Berlin, we play this show, and as we're playing, as the front of house guy, Carlos, who does front of house and does tour managing for us. I mean, yeah, he's the manager for the band. The driver texts him during the show and says the bus has died, which it did. We beat it up. So now we're in Berlin and we have to get to Bospop in Belgium. So at the end of the show, Carlos comes into the dressing room and says, "Listen, we are going to have to take the train to Belgium, but that train doesn't leave until 4 a.m. So we have to go to the train station in Berlin and wait from midnight until 4:30. So you can't sleep, because if you fall asleep in the train station, the police will come and hit you on the head until you leave." So we stayed there, and then we took the train and got to the festival and did that. And that was the first time I saw Sting live, and I have a whole story about him. He's really great. He's just his tone, his whole thing is just really, really superior. I can't say enough nice things about him. So we finished that show, and during the show, a new bus comes from this company. Again, remember earlier I said they just buy buses and send them. So they sent us this newer bus, and it was nice. It was, it seemed to have AC, seemed to have a working fridge. We drove that bus to Spain, and in Spain it was still that same triple-digit heat wave. And we're driving down the road, and all of a sudden, it's starting to get hot in the bus. You guys notice that? AC goes down on that bus. So then it's like, oh, well, for the last week or 9 days of that tour, people were sleeping on road cases, and it was tough. I mean, as a band member, I was lucky because we'd get to the town and they'd put us in a couple of hotel rooms, and we'd get to at least sleep for a few hours. But the crews, we'd come to the venue for sound check, and they'd be laying on their consoles, or But every night we did every show, the gear all worked, and for the most part, there were only a few that were undersold, but all the shows seemed to sell out. And, Steve and the band, we all did really well. So that was 7 weeks.
I interviewed Mike Stern one time, and
I think I've heard.
he said we pretty much play for free. We get paid to travel.
Yeah.
So that's what. And Sting, I kind of met him one time. I was backstage. I was interviewing Bagiti Kumalo, and this was at the Air Canada Center in Toronto.
Oh,
Sting and Paul Simon showed together. What's that?
what a dive! Air Canada Center.
As dives go, it was a pretty nice dive. So I'm walking backstage, and Sting is warming up with one of the singers, and they really do this. They go like la 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 la, and I caught his eye, and I went, and he went. Well, that was my brush with Sting. Didn't seem like an appropriate time to hit him up for an interview, but we did get one actually with Sting. I wanted to ask you about something. And for bass players only, we've got coming up on 800 interviews pretty soon. But we're really a bass instruction site. And people come from all over the world every day to learn how to play bass at ForBassPlayersOnly.com. And the people that I am attracting for the most part tend to be men in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They're not. It's not who I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the kids. When I first started a long time ago, but this is who's coming. We get a fair bit of women also, but what I'm getting at is when you get, and you touched on this, when you get to be 60, 70, someone even over 80, things like arthritis, tendinitis, pain in the neck, the back, the shoulder, recovering from surgery. And it just so happens that the curriculum, the way I have it laid out, lends itself beautifully to people who have some kind of physical challenges. And somebody that had hip replacement, shoulder replacement, starting out very simple with my Groove Grower framework, my trademark Groove Grower framework. So you start out super simple, and you can really make a lot of great music, make the music groove by playing it super simple, and then move up gradually as much as your body will allow you to do. But the reason I say that is because I wanted to ask you what advice you have for these people who want to learn bass. They're not trying to be rock stars. They're not trying to set the world on fire. They just want to play some classic rock riffs. They want to play some blues shuffles. They want to play maybe some walking bass or maybe some funk R&B. They want to do it because they enjoy it, and they've always wanted to do it. Maybe they dabbled in it when they were younger, never got very far. So in that context, what advice do you have for somebody like that who wants to learn to play the bass? What should they be focusing on?
Well, first of all, I'd say welcome to playing bass. It's a wonderful instrument, and you on your site, I'm sure, explain all the ways and the means to being a good musician. The pain and it's pain and suffering we all endure. Some people say, well, that's just part of it, but I would say that my big thing in teaching is I'm always interested in somebody's posture, how they're sitting, how they're standing when they're playing, how wide, the things that you can control, like how is your strap too wide, are your arms cocked, are you relaxed when you're doing it. I have, because with Steve, we don't, it's not a really a vocal band, so we play mostly 5, 6, 7 days a week. And every show, we do a 2-hour sound check, and the show is a couple 2 hours and change long. So we're playing sometimes 5 to 6 hours every day. And that beats you up. There's just no question about it. So I guess my first thing that I would say to them is to be patient with yourself. If something starts to hurt, stop. So I'd have to see your curriculum. I'd love to check that out. But doing things in short bursts, because we're older. If you do half hour, then stop for 10 minutes. Have a little, some water or some. The other thing too is drink as much water as possible in our older age. My wife and I have this thing where we're drinking. I don't remember how much it is now, but I have this bottle. It's about a 32-ounce bottle, and I empty it 5 times during the day. I just drink it. So, lubricating, keeping your joints lubricated, being, with your practice, it's very exciting to kind of play. But if you give yourself just a couple minutes in between, 10 minutes to just kind of let yourself relax, and let if you're feeling something, as they say, if you're feeling something, then you should stop, because tendonitis is a real thing, and it puts. Anytime I get any wrist pain, the first thing I think of is, oh God, what am I going to do? So I guess that would be what I would say is to make your practice sessions, half hour stop, and same with when you're playing with your friends, and if you're playing in bands and things like that. I know that when you're playing shows, you have to play as long as the show is, but maybe find don't be afraid to ice after a show. There's the guys that do ice and icy hot. There's lots of things. I use a product called Voltaren, which is it's a kind of arthritic cream, and it really works for me. So find things that work for you if you are getting pain, and of course, I'm sure you have a big stretching regimen before you play on your thing. Oh, yeah.
Oh, know what I do though? If I have a gig, even if it's like a club date or something, I will start loosening up about 3 or 4 days before. I've played a lot of Jewish weddings. A hora can go for like 45 minutes. My wife said, well, how can they keep going? Like, hey, if they want to do it,
I've played with a Hasidic band. It's a Hasidic pop band, and we would do, these events in California. This band called Eighth Day. They're still out making records.
Called what?
A band called Eighth Day. They're still out making records.
That doesn't sound very Jewish.
Well, they had me in the band. But we would play these,
Did you see that Clint Eastwood movie, Bird, with Charlie Parker and Red Rodney, and they're playing a Hasidic wedding? And
yeah. But in that context, they had a book that we would just go, it was the horror for, and the people stayed with it. They do it for hours and just go song to song and change the feel and do this. And so I feel you.
A lot of times the men will be on one side, the women will be on the other. Right?
With the sheet down the middle of the dance floor. And
the machitza, divider.
Oh, well, I'm a mensch, you're a mensch.
Hey, tell me about your gear. I could probably guess from what I see back there, but
well, I just happen to have got a bass from Music Man. It's a bongo. These are the basses that I've been playing.
What?
So it's got sparkles on it, which I'm very excited about.
You've been playing those for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
Music Man. I said you've been.
Music Man it's been a really good. We've had a really good connection, and then when I get session work stuff, sometimes I'll use this. It's a Music Man Stingray, and it's a very versatile instrument. Then I've got other instruments in the back there that I use. I still play this thing every now and again.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, the kala.
Yeah, the kala bongo. I mean the kala.
Kala U bass.
That still is. When I record upright, I use the actual upright. But if I'm doing a gig with a band, and it's 4 songs and then 2 songs on upright, I'm like, to move that thing around for 2 songs is a lot.
I know.
So I can just pick that up and.
I forgot who I was interviewing. He said he was touring with Emmylou Harris.
Oh.
And he was playing with a kala on one song, and then I guess Emmylou went into the next song quicker than he had expected, and he didn't have time to change basses.
Yeah.
Normally would have played, I don't know, a P bass or whatever, and she turned around and she started laughing like, "Why are you playing that? That didn't give me enough time to switch. That's why." What about the future? So what else is coming up?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're going out to do 10 weeks in the States, and then we're going to be, I believe it's like South America and Central America. Then we'll do, Asia, Japan, and all that. And then this question, because we had done an extensive tour in Russia and Ukraine on the 25th anniversary, but now I don't know if that's going to happen. We had done an extensive tour through mainland China. Don't know if that's going to happen because of political things are kind of weird between all the countries. And we had done Middle East. We did Israel and all that stuff. We planned to do an extensive Israel thing. I keep hoping that we'll get to Egypt somehow. But again, it's all about what's going on politically. So the things they can talk about are Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Korea, Vietnam, those from South America, Central America, those territories that we haven't pissed off. So we'll go to those, and we'll do probably do another U.S. run in this, and do this some of the secondary markets. So we'll play instead of playing Phoenix, we'll play Tucson. Instead of playing Boston, we'll play Connecticut, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then we'll do the same thing over in Europe. And at that point, that'll be 2 years, and it's time to make another record.
It's sad because of the political reasons, but it's really great to see that there's an appreciation for the music in all those countries that you mentioned all over the world. So that
Steve has a very strong, I guess I could say, cult following. The whole guitar community is its own thing, So I mean, that's like Joe Satriani, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Joe Bonamassa. There's many guitar player guys that are just go out and do, anywhere from 800 to 22,000 places, and can do it all over the world. So
that's cool.
Thanks.
Well, Philip, this is so great catching up with you. I know it's been a while. I do hope to see you again in person. That would be nice. It's been what we decide, like 7 years, I think, since we were actually in the same room at the same time. But thanks for bringing us up to date, and I hope you get air conditioned or heated buses or whatever. I've got some stories too. I went to Germany one time, and they picked us up in Frankfurt and drove us to Machnerkirchen. This was the one of the Warwick base camps. The van didn't have air conditioning, and neither did the hotel. And they put us up in the second floor, and we opened the windows. Well, what's right below us is a playground. Kids do not play quietly, including German kids. They yell and run around and play. And it finally cooled off a few days after that. But there's some. Well, going back to what Mike Stern says, we play for free, we get paid to travel. So
that's it is it's a great experience, and to us senior players, it's a really nice way to kind of get out and see the world and whatnot. And there's no way that I would have ever bought a ticket to Vietnam.
I toured Colombia and Medellin and Peru in the 80s. When I was too stupid to realize what I was right in the middle of. I'm very happy.
I'd love to sit back and hear the Colombia stories. That's one of my favorite places.
Yeah, well, there was a club that had like $1 million light system and everything. They didn't have music stands for us, but they had. Someday we'll sit down and we'll tell each other some stories. I'd like to hear some more about what.
I bet you that a lot of the fans and people who subscribe to the site would love to have the John Lieberman interview. I think that's a really good idea. Let's ask you some questions and let you talk.
Well, people have suggested that. I get invited to be on other people's podcasts and their shows once in a while. Yes, he did suggest doing that on my site. Who would I get to interview?
Well, I'd love to.
Okay.
I'll get a better mic, and I'll talk. Yes.
Huh?
That's what. It's not the mic's bad. It's we're both old and we can't hear each other.
Well, thanks again, Philip. I really appreciate it, and much luck and continued success to you. Let's get together in person and get into some trouble together.
I like that.
Thanks so much to our special guest, Philip Bynoe. I'm John Liebman, founder and first baseman of ForBassPlayersOnly.com, where I've taken the frustration out of learning bass so you can build confidence, have fun, and just enjoy playing music, especially with sore muscles, achy joints, and just getting older. ForBassPlayersOnly.com. We'll see you all next week. Once again, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.